Dolls. They're scary. They're tiny, uncanny versions of people that have found a comfortable home within the horror genre. And my sister used to collect them, and I hated them. They gave me nightmares, and they're creepy, and I felt like they could just watch me through the walls, and they would watch me while I slept. And that has nothing to do with this video, but I'm just not quite over it. Today we're watching 1987's Dolls, a movie made in collaboration with Charles Band, the man behind the Puppet Master movies, Brian Yuzna, the guy behind the Re-Animator sequels, as well as Society and Necronomicon, and it's directed by Stuart Gordon, who's the man behind Re-Animator and From Beyond. You can feel each of their unique styles throughout Dolls, and this combination makes for a really fun and entertaining film, and one of the best scary doll movies that I've seen. So, sit back and relax, and let's watch 1987's Dolls. The movie opens with two punk rocker girls trying to hitchhike, but a car almost hits them. Inside that car, we meet our main characters, the Bauer family, with David, Rosemary, and David's daughter, Judy. They're on a little summer road trip vacation, but suddenly the sunny, clear skies transform into a crazy rainstorm.
Back to our music.
Oh, I don't like the look of these clouds up ahead.
The car gets stuck, somehow. They're on a flat road when we see outside, and the rain has mostly stopped, but Rosemary drove right into a mud puddle deep enough that now they can't get out. And that's gold star driving right there. David tries to push the car out of the mud, and he ends up getting mud sprayed all over him, and he's cursing and kicking the car, and in the meantime, Judy and Rosemary start to argue a bit inside the car, so we get a little bit of Bauer lore.
Rosemary.
That's Mama Rosemary.
You're not my mother.
Thank God.
So these family dynamics are pretty simple. David is Judy's father, and Rosemary is David's girlfriend, and Rosemary doesn't like Judy. And you know what? David doesn't really like Judy either. Like this whole movie, he's just saying how he wants to leave the kid behind, and there's a couple times when he wants to do some physical discipline, and David, he just doesn't seem like he's a very good guy. So get ready for child-hating parent hijinks to ensue, I guess. After a few struggling minutes in the mud, they decide that the car is too stuck for them to do anything about. But they do spot some lights in the distance, so they choose to abandon the car and come back in the morning. So David, Rosemary, Judy, and Judy's teddy bear start the short hike, but I guess Rosemary hates stuffed animals because she grabs the teddy and just yeets him into the forest.
Not this time, Tootsie.
But strange things immediately start to happen because as Judy stares after her teddy bear, we hear her thoughts say that Teddy will get his revenge on them, and then a giant version of the teddy bear shambles out of the trees. His little cute stuffed animal body sheds and turns into a real-ish looking scary bear that tears Rosemary and David apart as Judy watches. But just kidding. This was all in Judy's head.
Quit moaning about that toy and get moving.
The family makes it to the house that they saw, but as they knock, no one answers and it seems to be abandoned. They walk around the property and find a little door to the basement unlocked, and then it starts to rain again, so they decide to enter and face any consequences for their actions after the storm has subsided. Inside the basement, Judy sees something and it scares her, and she just body checks her dad.
Nice going.
It's so funny to me how David just flops over when Judy just touches him, like he must have some weak knees. He's getting old. He's got those weak knees going on. The noise of David falling apparently wakes up the homeowners because a light flicks on and the puppet master Gabriel and his wife Hillary show up and point a shotgun at the family. Judy, of all people, explains to them that they tried knocking but no one answered, and understanding the situation of the storm, Gabriel says that the family can stay with them until the morning. But I mean, clearly the couple is a bit strange, and Judy is starting to catch on pretty quick.
Afraid of the dark?
No, afraid of what's in the dark.
On their way to the kitchen, Judy sees a room full of porcelain dolls, and it looks like it's ripped straight out of my nightmares.
Me. Wow.
And as they walk away, one of the dolls freaking smiles, and I hate it. They all sit down and eat and get a nice big bowl of brown. Yummy, yummy brown. It looks so gross whatever they're eating. As they eat, they start to learn a little bit about each other and share a few totally not suspicious seeming laughs. We learn that Gabriel is a doll maker, and when Judy says that she recently lost her teddy bear, he offers her a new replacement friend. A totally not haunted or nightmare-inducing jester.
I like him.
Say hello to Mr. Punch.
Hello, Mr. Punch.
Oh yeah, and his name is Mr. Punch. The lights suddenly flicker, and those two punk rockers that we saw earlier burst in from a side door. So yay, they're here now too. They're in the movie.
These girls, they were just hitchhiking, and so I picked them up.
Picked us up. Trying to catch some talent around.
They're just kidding.
Also, a dude named Ralph is with them. He drove by and he saw them hitchhiking, and just like Judy's family, they ended up getting stuck due to the storm. Gabriel and Hillary are just fine with the newcomers that burst in, so it looks like we've got a big old stormy slumber party in the making. After dinner, everyone splits into their own separate rooms, and each of them have dolls all over, and they're all secretly alive, and I still hate it. So, for some reason, Gabriel decides not to take Ralph and Judy to their rooms, and instead he takes them down to his workshop. It turns out that Ralph, despite being a big, grown-up guy, still likes toys because he's a kid at heart.
You still like toys, do you?
Oh, yes, but it's too bad we have to outgrow them, right?
No one says you have to.
This whole movie, by the way, Judy keeps bringing up elves and fairies, but she's got an active imagination, so I'm sure she's just being a silly little fella.
Just my imagination.
A bit later, Gabriel finally takes Judy and Ralph to their rooms, and we check in on the other guests. It turns out the punk rockers want to rob the old couple, so they turn their music up really loud and they plan to sneak out to find their valuables when everyone else is asleep. And David and Rosemary are just drinking wine and smack-talking Judy.
You know what I'm gonna do when we get out of here? Ship the kid back to Boston, screw the divorce settlement.
So, all the other guests are just bad people, I guess. In the night, Isabel sneaks out and finds a room with a bunch of antiques and jewelry, and she starts to stuff it all into her bag. But she's being watched by some sneaky dolls who keep on pranking her by turning a music box on and off, but she keeps searching when suddenly she's grabbed from behind and starts to get dragged across the room while we hear tiny giggles from whatever is pulling her. Isabel's head is bashed into a wall a few times, and then she's thrown into a hallway right in front of Judy, who was just wandering the house looking for a drink. She begs the girl for help before she's dragged down the hall, leaving Judy alone, and I'm sure scarred for the rest of her life. She's gonna bring this up in therapy someday before being tossed into a padded room for the rest of her life. Judy runs to tell her parents what happened, and David doesn't believe her, and then he reacts violently. He doesn't hit the kid, but he almost does, and then he just berates her about how she's lying, and he doesn't want to hear it anymore.
I don't want to hear any more stories for the rest of the summer. Now get out of here. Go to bed. Out.
This is just more fuel for her therapy-prescribed padded room imprisonment. There's no chance Judy grows up to be a normal, functioning person after this, not after tonight. Judy is still scared, so she goes and she wakes up Ralph.
Ah!
Judy, you just about gave me a heart attack.
I have to ask.
She tells him that she saw one of the others get dragged away, but Ralph chalks it up to childish imagination. That is, until he sees the blood on Judy's slippers.
That's blood.
Yeah, well, it was pretty bloody when they dragged her away.
I think Ralph is supposed to be kind of a coward because he makes this noise.
I guess so.
I don't really know what this noise is, but it's kind of cowardly and weird, man. It's such a weird noise. Judy takes Ralph to where she saw the girl get dragged away. While they're walking, Judy tosses her Mr. Punch into a corner. I think it's supposed to be her accidentally dropping him, but she clearly just throws him. It's so funny. And then she sees something and wanders in another direction, but we never see what that thing is that she saw. And a minute later, Judy finds the blood trail from that girl, and she and Ralph follow it up to the attic. As they're investigating, we see Isabel strapped to a chair with a doll mask over her face, and it's pretty creepy, but Judy and Ralph don't see her, so they decide to go back downstairs and tell the others about the blood that they found. But, once again, David is pretty upset that he's been woken up.
What the hell are you doing?
So, this conversation goes just about as poorly as it possibly could. Ralph kind of bumbles in an explanation, and then Enid blames him for killing Isabel, and Ralph bumbles some more, and then David asks what Ralph has been doing with his daughter all night, and, well...
Hey, you get away from my daughter, pervert!
Oh, no!
So Ralph tries to explain the misunderstandings, but he just bumbles some more, and everyone turns against him, and then Judy runs away. The whole scene is just Ralph rolling natural ones on the persuasion checks over and over and over, and in the end he ends up getting doors slammed in his face, and he ends up alone in the hallway. He runs to find Gabriel, but when he does, the old doll maker explains that he spilled some red paint in the hallway, so there was actually never any blood. When asked about the missing Isabel, he says that she's probably just lost somewhere in the big house, but he's sure that there's nothing to be worried about. Ralph goes to the kitchen to clean the blood from his slippers, and he finds Judy there. She keeps trying to tell him about the elves or whatever she saw, and Ralph sits down to explain that everything was just in her imagination. But then, Mr. Punch decides to chime in.
Deep down inside, you know.
We cut to see Rosemary now getting ready to sleep when something starts to move under her covers. She throws the blanket off and gets attacked by tiny little nightmare dolls who stab her with knives and hit her with hammers and bite at her and saw at her limbs, and then she stumbles out of the room only to find a whole army of dolls waiting for her. So in her desperation, she jumps out of a window. A bit later, Enid sneaks out of her room to search for Isabel, and she finds Hillary singing a lullaby and pushing around a doll in a stroller, so... Hillary's crazy. Enid makes her way up to the attic and she finds Isabel, but she's shrouded in darkness and begging Enid to leave. When Enid moves her light closer, we see that Isabel's face is transforming into a doll face and her eyes pop out, and that can't be good. Enid gets suddenly swarmed by a bunch of dolls, and when she crushes one of them, we see a tiny gray face hidden underneath the porcelain. Enid starts burning and kicking and swinging her belt at the dolls, and as they break, the little creatures inside of them are all screaming and their skin is bubbling, and it looks great. The effect work is awesome in this scene, and it's all super creepy and disturbing, and I love it. Enid is able to fight her way downstairs, but she's stopped by an army of toy soldiers. The soldiers end up shooting and killing Enid, and then we cut over to see Ralph and Judy as they go searching around the house. They find a storage room full of dolls, so that's comforting. As Ralph looks around, the dolls all move and surround him.
They're alive, aren't they?
Seeing sentient dolls, Ralph gets freaked out and he wants to leave. He starts to stomp and kick his way through the dolls, but the dolls don't like that, so they all jump on Ralph and attack him. But Judy steps in before they kill him, and she calls them bad dolls, and this causes them to stop. For now. David comes to bed after a midnight shower, and he finds Rosemary in bed covered with a sheet. He cozies up to her, but when he pulls off the sheet for a kiss, he finds her all bloody and her eyeballs hanging out, and like she's big time dead. David blames this death on Ralph, so he grabs a broken piece of wood and he runs out into the hall, declaring that he's going to kill Ralph for the murder.
You! You're dead meat! Your father sounds upset!
He looks upset too.
David starts to beat Ralph, but just before he kills him, a tiny spear sinks into David's hand, and Mr. Punch has now entered the fight. David just starts throwing stuff at the doll, and he's breaking shelves and making a mess, and he ends up throwing Mr. Punch to the ground before slamming a sledgehammer onto the doll's face.
You, Clody!
Gabriel and Hillary hear all of the commotion, so they head to the workshop to find David, and he's all mad, and he calls Hillary a witch, and she just says, "Yep, you're right." So, she's a witch.
He figured it out.
A lucky guess, that's all.
Hillary is a bit upset with the mess and all the broken stuff, but Gabriel says that he can fix everything, even the Mr. Punch doll. But for that, he'll need David's help. David drops a hammer, and his bones start cracking.
And you still don't know what's happening, do you? You silly Mr. Punch.
Mischievous, Mr. Punch.
So David starts transforming into a Mr. Punch doll, and this is another one of those scenes with just awesome effect and makeup work. It looks creepy and kind of grotesque. His hands get all disproportionate, and his face starts to swell and changes around, and in the end, David is left as just a doll.
Don't you think it clashes with his more modern get-up?
So morning comes around, and they wake Ralph up to explain things, and this should go well.
The killer dolls!
The what?
Gabriel says that Ralph went exploring in the night, and he hit his head, and everything that he thinks happened was just a dream. So then Judy chimes in, and she asks where her dad is, and Gabriel says that he just left, and he decided to leave her, and he's leaving the country, and he's changing his name so that she'll never find him. Gabriel then says that it'll be Ralph's duty to take Judy to Boston where her mother lives, and Ralph just wants to get out of this place, so he says okay, he just pretends to buy it, and he gets up to leave.
You can stay here and play with our toys for as long as you like.
Ralph grabs Judy and he runs out of the house, but he gets scared again when he sees Judy's teddy bear sitting on the front seat. Of course, Judy's all happy, and she ends up running back to the old couple, and she gives them her bear and asks if they can watch him until she comes back to visit next year. Ralph and Judy drive away, and we get a final terrifying scene of all of the characters dolled up and just sitting and moving, and it's creepy, and this is where the movie ends. Overall, I really, really like this movie. It's pretty scary, it's kind of funny, and it's full of character. I'm a sucker for practical effect work, and I think some of the dolls here, as well as David transforming into that Mr. Punch, I think they look incredible. I don't have a lot more to say about this movie other than I really, really like it. I think this is one of the better scary dolls movies that exists out there. I think it's an easy 7 out of 10. Definitely add this one to your watch list if you haven't watched it already, and that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And a huge thanks to my YouTube members. Thank you guys so much for the extra support. I love you. But until next time, happy watching, guys. Bye.